And if at any point you need me to dial up or dial down on any part of the discourse today, please feel free to ask during the question um, time, okay? I have been introduced. All I would say here is nothing more than I am on IG. If you want to follow me on IG, follow me on IG. I am at Stanley Eluwa on IG. You'll find me there. I try to drop a few nuggets from time to time, so you can join me. Let's flow together. That's a bit about me. I'm a certified an ICF certified coach. I'm a Deloitte certified facilitator. I am a team effectiveness certified facilitator from the UK. I am an SHL trained assessor and assessment center administrator, SHRM, HRMP for those who are in the HR space. I'm a full member of CIPM, and just a few of them, just to mention a few of them. That's a bit about my work background, just to help give some credence to some of the things I want to do. So there are 5 key areas I'd like to talk about today as we look at the topic rethinking and redesigning the candidate experience for enhanced business outcomes. So there are 2 things here. There's the element of rethinking and redesigning the candidate experience. The experience of the candidate is critical. I'm going to talk about it in a minute. And then how will that enhance the outcome of the business? What we are saying is, what is the impact on the business? So here we're talking about CX, candidate experience, and impact on the business. Okay. So I like to start while I'm here to ask, is there anyone here who would like to share an experience with us in class today about a customer experience? I'll use the word customer for now. A customer experience. Tell me about a time you went to a shop or you went to buy a service, and while you were buying that service, you had a very bad experience. If you could share in 1 minute that experience and how that experience impacted you as a person, that would help me kickstart this session. Is there anyone who can unmute and share with us? You went to buy a service, you went to buy a product, you went into a shop, or you went to the market, and then you know that what you requested versus what you got kind of situation. Is there anyone who has experienced something that would be willing to share? Anyone? Okay, thank you. So, I mean, for want of our time, I like to have my class interactive. I like to share a story of something that happened to me a couple of years back. Um, I was traveling to Guinea-Bissau, and I wanted to and I needed to fly for you to fly to Bissau. There's only one flight that goes to Bissau. You will need to fly into one of the African countries. I'm trying to remember now. One of the African countries, and when you get there, you then wait till the next day for that flight that goes into Bissau. So I got there that day, and I was supposed to stay in a 3-star hotel in the country. And the 3-star hotel had booked this hotel up front. They had to send someone. They had to send a shuttle van to come pick me up. And this is Senegal. I remember now. I was in Senegal. So the hotel in Senegal had sent a shuttle bus with a driver and an assistant who came to the airport to pick me up. And when they got to me, they were able to locate me by a card with my name on it. So I saw them and I walked up to them, and they ushered me to the van, the shuttle bus. I got there, they took my bag from me, and the next thing was that someone came. The next thing I noticed that was someone came with a towel that was disinfected for me to wipe my hands, to wipe my face, just to freshen up a bit. And while I was thinking that that was all, as soon as I entered the shuttle bus, next thing I experienced was that, can we get everyone to mute? Can someone mute everybody? The next thing I experienced was that someone offered me a bottle of Coke. Guys, that was an amazing experience. It was an amazing experience. I really enjoyed that experience. I haven't seen that happen in Nigeria before. I have traveled a bit. I have never seen that experience, even in the UK or apart from when I go to Chinese restaurants. That's when I experienced this. But you know what? This happened in the bus. And that experience till tomorrow is an experience I will not forget about the Low Meridian Hotel in Senegal. And you see me share this story with you with passion. And that's what happens about the experience that you get. Today, we will be talking about the candidate experience. How do we get our candidates to have the kind of emotional connection or emotional experience that endears them to our brands, to our organizations, to our to us, and then keeps them loyal and then retained within the organization. That's what we're going to talk about under these 5 points in the next in 60 minutes. Okay, so let's start with the first one: the what, the why, the how, understanding the candidate journey. I can imagine that if a few of us, I mean, you can take some time to just make a note around what you want to make this useful for you. Generally, a few of us would have at some point been dealt with as applicants who are trying to apply for a job and trying to get into a new role, you know, and the way you feel if at that point in time, I can imagine would largely determine whether you would want to take that offer or not. I have had reasons to drop offers because the experience wasn't good for several reasons. It could either be that there were too many layers of interviewing that was going to happen in terms of the process. It could also be that the experience with the interview panel wasn't at a good level. I've had a panel that wasn't mature enough to even relate with me at the interview level. It could also be as basic as even the forms that you are asked to fill. You give people too many forms to fill, and it becomes cumbersome that they begin to worry if this is a jam examination or an interview process. So the what, the why, and the how. Let's look at this. What does the candidate experience really mean? The first thing I'll say is that the candidate experience speaks to all the interactions that we have with the candidate from the moment the candidate starts the process with us. I would also add a leg to that, and I'll say that even from the point where the candidate begins to interact with our brand, from the point where the candidate begins to see your job description, from the point where the candidate begins to see your adverts, that's where the experience starts from. Guys, the experience does not start at the interview stage. The experience does not start at the onboarding stage. It starts from there. And I can say that if you get it wrong at the point where they are interacting with your brand, if the brand experience and the emotional connection with the brand isn't good enough, it may impact the entire process for the individual. And I can almost tell that even if you end up hiring the person, it may not also be a very good experience till the person exits. So it's what happens all through that process, from the initial awareness stage to the final hiring stage. It's something about the emotional connection. It has a lot to do with your brand, the brand. And that's why as HR people, we have always advised, and we've spoken to HR leaders from time to time to say, ensure that your employer branding, the reason why people should work with you, should be clearly communicated, and it creates a very strong connection between potential candidates and the people that work within the organization. And then finally, if it's well done, it helps you to convert your top choice candidates into employees in no time. This is very important. To understand what we're talking about, the experience is all the things that happen, the interactions that happen, the face-to-face chats that happen, the telephone conversations that happen, the emails that happen. I'm trying to break it down so that you understand what happens between the experience. If you get it wrong at any point, it's going to be a struggle. And I have a few quotes that I just put together while I was thinking about this yesterday. And I have said that the first one is that with the raging war of talent, I'm sure a lot of us know that the war for talent is becoming very, very fierce. Becoming fierce with the jackpot thing happening, becoming even more fierce with companies leaving the country today, becoming a lot more fierce because the requirements of for employers' requirements for roles are changing by the day. Technology is changing the way people view roles today. So things are changing and making the war for talent a lot fiercer. So based on this, I'm saying that with the raging war for talent, which has caused significant disruption in the labor market, candidate experience has become actually the differentiating factor for attracting and retaining key talents in this economy. So if you're going to be able to attract that talent you're looking at on LinkedIn every day, the talent you go for your career fairs to talk to every day, if you're going to attract them, then the experience will determine a lot. And I also said that if you will compete favorably in this VUCA dispensation, the candidate experience must be tight. Who can tell me, what does VUCA mean? What does VUCA mean? Someone says I am not seeing the screen again. Is there anybody not seeing my screen?
I can see your screen.
Thank you. Morenikeji, you said you can't see my screen. Please, can you check your network? Okay.
I think VUCA means volatile or volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. I think that's
Thank you
what
very
VUCA means.
much. Thank you. That's an amazing response. So VUCA stands for volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. So the business environment, I mean, as HR leaders, you must understand the business environment. It's getting really, really tougher by the day. It's becoming very volatile. We see the volatility of our core of the current of the foreign currencies today. You wake up today is 1,005, tomorrow is 1,006 to $1. Next tomorrow it drops, tomorrow it goes up. There's this volatile. Things are uncertain today. Government policies are uncertain. They tell you today that they've removed the ban on this. Tomorrow they place a ban on something else. It's becoming very complicated to run business in our environment, and things are becoming more ambiguous. So if you're going to survive and the organization is going to survive and it's not going to go down like a few companies that are struggling today, then your candidate experience must help you attract the right people that will transform your business for success. Okay. I took this from Harvard. I mean, the bottom part of it isn't showing. I'm so sorry. I referenced Harvard here. Harvard said that for experience, whether it's customer experience or candidate experience, that there are 4 things that are very, very important that we must look at and we must always think about when we talk about the experience. And Harvard has said that the 4 of them, and I'll take a bit of time to explain them very quickly. I mean, maybe when we have time in the future, we can go in detail. They said there are 4 elements that make up a great experience, and that could also mar a great experience as well. The first one is that it should have a bit of education with it. If people will have a great experience with you, it has to do with how much you are investing in educating people, whether they are employees today or potential employees for the future. So what are you doing today to help talk to people who are not your employees yet? And what are you doing to tell them about your organization? And what are you doing to sell your brand to them? So how are you educating people who have joined your organization through your onboarding process? Because the biggest gap is in education. Once we're not doing enough and sufficient to educate people, to enlighten people about our offerings, about what we are doing differently, about what makes us unique, about what stands us out, we may not be able to get in their minds and win them over. In marketing, this is called the top of mind awareness. Top of mind awareness, TOMA, is called TOMA. The top of mind awareness, HR, we must realize that to attract the best of talent, top of mind awareness is very important. Educate people as much as possible. When people interact with you at the career fairs, How much information are you passing? When they come on your career site, how much information do you pass about the job, about the organization, about your culture, about everything in general? How much education do you give when they come for onboarding? How much do they know? Onboarding lasts for 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month. How much of education happens through the process, apart from immersing them in the work? The other element is entertainment. Sometimes it's important that when you're trying to get people to connect with you, you also try and ensure that you do it in a fun way that helps them connect. It could be a video that you share about your employer brand, about how employees within your organizations are successful. It could be a game. It could be anything. People come for career fairs and they come to your booth. Your booth is not just to share flyers, but you make it a bit entertaining for them. And especially for children and for young people of this generation, how do we get to the point that we help them as young people get connected and attracted to your brand? Sometimes some elements of entertainment could really, really help. Okay. Then aesthetic is also a lot about how we as individuals make the look and feel beautiful. I give you an example. I was trying to hire a senior talent about 4 months ago. And I kept talking to this talent, and she was saying to me, Stanley, I'm not interested. Stanley, I'm not interested. Stanley, I'm not interested. So I said to her, okay, it's fine. I know you're not interested. I'd like to have a word with you. Do you have a few minutes? We can meet at my office. And then she left and actually came for a conversation at my office. Now, let me say that where I work today, the office is state of the art, okay? It's a state of the art kind of building. It's amazing. If you come to my lounge, it's amazing. If I take you to that lounge, it would be very difficult for you to leave that place and not resign immediately and join me. Sorry, I'm kidding here. So when she came to the office and saw the place, as she was leaving, she just kept saying, wow, Stanley, wow. Stanley, wow, this is amazing. This is amazing. This is amazing. And I can tell you that contributed strongly. That was not the only factor, because I also had an opportunity for her to see my CEO. I did a couple of things in between. We had to sell. In my organization, I sell. So we got her to really engage with the CEO and some of our leaders. And I can tell you today that she has joined the organization. Okay. Yes. So the aesthetics is also important. When you give people forms to fill, how lovely do they look? Is it those kind of dry forms, or you make the forms look a bit lovely? What else do you do to make the experience better? When they come for interviews, the interview rooms, how do they look? I mean, I don't have too much of time today, but let me just stop at this. But then the escapist part. When Harvard explained this bit, what they said is that it's a bit close to entertainment, but the difference here is immersion. Is where you create an experiential opportunity for people who come for interviews to connect with your organization by making it a bit experiential. Several years ago, I happened to go to BAT, and if you have done assessment centers with BAT, you will realize that it's something totally different. When they put you in the room, they leave a lot of drinks, a lot of food, a lot of stuff for you guys, and they allow you guys interconnect, relate, play games, and have fun at some point before they start the assessment center itself. Guys, whatever we can do to immerse people into our culture sometimes help stir them up to want to really work for the organization. Okay. Now, the stages of the candidate journey are just the 6, but it's important we try and make these 6 stages of the candidate's journey experiential and exciting for them. Somebody said the cost center narrative out the door. We can talk about that during the question time. Firstly is the awareness. The awareness is the point where you advertise the job. The individual sees the JD. That's the awareness point, okay? What do you do at this point, and what can we do at this point to make the experience good? If you see my JD, you see my job advert, how do I make it exciting for you that you want to jump on the offer immediately? That's what that is saying. And there are too many things we can do at this stage, at the initial stage, to make the individual want to join? Do you want to share that with a video telling people about how people in the organization currently are excited to be part of the journey? So you need to find a way to ensure that the awareness stage is exciting, the job description is challenging and compelling enough for them to want the job, and so on. Then the consideration stage is where the individual says, okay, based on the awareness and what you have done at this stage, I am considering your offer. And then you move from there to the application stage, where the individual then says, yes, I'm now willing to apply. But the experience at the application stage, how beautiful is it? Do I get to application stage and I have to fill 1,000 forms online, or you give me a booklet of forms and you ask me to fill them? Is it cumbersome or is it seamless? Is it something that is technology enabled or it's not technology enabled? I can go on and on and on. What happens at this stage? Because at the application stage, a lot of us lose candidates because we make it difficult for them to connect. And then the selection stage, this is where interviews happen. This is where we sieve the CVs, we run the interviews. And let me say this, you may have done an amazing work from awareness to application and so on. But guess what, guys? Your managers at the selection stage mess things up for you. One question I'd like to ask you is, how many of us take the time to invest in training and supporting our managers who are involved in recruitment? If your managers don't do the right things at the recruitment stage, I will show you a case study in 1 minute, and I'll show you how a manager messed up the experience for a candidate in a company somewhere. I just put it there very quickly. And then the offer and acceptance stage is another very, very vital and important stage. Sometimes we lose it at the offer stage. We are offering the candidate at a level below, or offering a candidate and the negotiations don't go well, and then we lose the candidates. And finally, what happens at the onboarding stage, the induction stage, and the engagement and interaction with managers? One of the things I tell people is that, in fact, I always tell your managers, the last work day before your candidate resumes, let the manager put a call through to the individual and engage that individual before the individual resumes. It creates an environment of, I am wanted here. I will tell you a story of a very senior colleague who we're going to hire a very senior colleague. He was based in Port Harcourt. And when we're going to hire him, we heard about a kidnap in Port Harcourt, and my MD put a call through to the guy to say, I heard about a kidnap in Port Harcourt, and I just checked to know that you are okay. This guy hadn't joined us. The guy tells me till tomorrow that was the reason he fully made up his mind to join us. At that point where onboarding starts, how do you ensure that the experience with the individual is amazing? Then the other point is the impact, the customer experience impact. Do we think that customer experience actually has an impact? Guys, yes, customer experience has a strong impact. Customer experience has a significant impact on the business. And I'm going to show us that in a few minutes. These are a few things. I mean, I just had to rush them up here because I am not in class with you. I wish I had time to demonstrate this with us. So it helps us attract top talent because we want to have the best of talent. If the customer experience is great, then we'll be able to attract the best of talents that we want. It helps enhance our employer brand. Because if it goes well, what happens is that your talents that you hire become your advocates, and it enhances your employer brand and your reputation. It also enables it enables employee engagement and the retention of your talents. Let me say to us, talent retention doesn't start when talent resumes. It starts from the point where you start the hiring process. Because if the experience isn't very good, the talent may not really becomes edgy when they join you. And from that point on, you may start losing your talent if the other experience post-recruitment also becomes very bad. So let's ensure that the experience with the candidate is good. Then if the experience with the candidate is good, definitely productivity will go up, because from the day they hit the ground, like we say, hit the ground running, their productivity is high, performance will be high, because you would have very engaged employees joining your workforce. Also, financial performance, because once performance goes up, the business performs better, which impacts financial performance, revenue, productivity, profit, EBITDA, and the rest of them. And then enhanced organizational culture, definitely, because your onboarding process is great, you have great people joining you, and then the culture is good. And then innovation and growth, because your talents that you have brought are excited and engaged, they will keep being innovative, and there will be growth. And finally, continuous improvement. One of the hallmarks of a great customer candidate experience is that there is continuous improvement in the process. Okay. Now, how do you design a world-class candidate experience? How do you design a world-class candidate experience? I'll start with this case study. I will rush through it very quickly before want of time. We don't have too much of time. I'll rush through very quickly. Now, this case study is about a company called Virgin Media, and how Virgin Media lost $5 million annually because of a wrong or a bad candidate experience. Now, this speaks about a guy, Johnson, who joined Virgin Media as their head of resourcing. And when he joined Virgin Media as their head of resourcing, he wanted to really find out what the issues were with the recruitment process and the experiences that candidates have had. So what he did was to try and he deployed post-interview surveys. And when he deployed it, a few things came out that were very, very revealing. And it was a kind of worms that was opened. One of them was about a hairdresser from Manchester. And this hairdresser, the story says that the hairdresser came from Manchester. Her name is Louis, and she had enthusiasm to join the company, but she had limited qualifications. So she did everything she could, including asking friends, asking colleagues, siblings, asking people around her, just so that she gets enough information and prepare enough for the interview. Good enough, she had an opportunity at the interview, and she had to go face the panel at the interview. Excited about it, she got there, but her experience at the interview was different. It was a very poor and bad experience, which impacted this brand for a long time. What was this experience? That from the reception, the receptionist gave a very, very, very negative vibe. The receptionist wasn't very friendly, was very grumpy, and that was bad enough. Okay, so we need to understand that the experience with the receptionist is part of the entire experience. That was bad enough. He got into the room for the interview, and as he got into the room for the interview, one of the interviewers got up to go take a phone call and returned 10 minutes later and said, "I have heard everything I need to hear," and based on that, rejected the lady. And the lady left there very confused, very disappointed, and then decided to cancel her Virgin Media cable subscription. Guess what followed? As soon as she canceled, her sister canceled, and you can imagine that several other people canceled. Let me tell us something about the customer, the candidate experience. It's like the customer experience. In the customer experience, if a customer picks up a product and the product is not good, they will tell their friends. You know that customers are quick to tell people about bad experiences than they will do about good experiences. So this lady told her sister, and I can imagine that several other people were told, and they canceled their Virgin Media cable subscription. This had a significant impact on the organization. Guys, imagine what the company would have lost. Okay? So bad news, someone said, thank you, Stella. Bad news travels faster than good news would travel. Bad news travels faster than good news would travel. So guys, this is very important that we take note of. So that's how Virgin Media lost a lot of customers, lost revenue, lost profits, lost brand. I can imagine they will lose a market share. They will lose brand equity. They will lose all of those things because of a bad candidate experience. So guys, think about this and think about what we are doing. As we talk about this, think about your process. From the moment that candidates come for interviews, whether they meet you virtually or they meet you online or they meet you physically, what's the experience? If I were in your shoes, I would try one day to even role play, have the candidate gets in from the gate down to the interview room and out as well, and see how that really fits. All right, so the principles of superior candidate experience, a few of them are, firstly, is about the respect and the empathy for the candidates. Let me ask you, how well do we do to put ourselves in the shoes of the candidate? Just like I described, one day get to the office from the gate. Try and role play from the moment the candidate gets into the gate, gets in through the gate, gets to your reception, gets to the waiting room, and gets to the interview room, and then leaves the same way. What's the experience? You need to be empathized. You need to wear their shoes so that you also see where you dial up. And what can you do to personalize the experiences you have with them? Sometimes you want to send an email to candidates to invite them for an interview, you blind copy everybody. Is there a way you can make that a bit better by personalizing it and saying, Dear John, Dear Mary, and not just Dear Candidate? And then you blind copy 1,000 candidates at the same time. Is there a way we can get better in our processes and get that better? Then being transparent. How do we ensure that candidates are kept informed when they come for interviews at our locations? Thank you, Tijani. Mail merge. That's what I was going to talk about. If you know how to use the mail merge works. It helps so that you don't have to send bulk emails. Thank you, Tijani. And then efficiency and professionalism, simplifying application and interviewing process. So somebody comes to for an interview, he has to fill 10 forms. Each of those 10 forms would ask him for his name, his father's name, his mother's name, his auntie's name, his sister's name, his children's name. He will fill that in 10 forms. How do we simplify our forms? How do we simplify our processes? When they come for interviews, they have to see 10 people. Can this be done at the third stage and you end it at a 3-stage level than 10 stages? What can we do to simplify and make our processes a lot more efficient? And finally, how do we ensure that the feedback process, both at every stage, is also very, very, very good? How do we ensure it is professional enough in terms of how we handle it? Now, in terms of the stages, I will leave you to read this up when you get the notes. I may not want to bore you because, for want of time, we have a lot to deal with today. But let me also say that these are the 6 stages I spoke of earlier. These are things that you can do to make each stage an exciting stage for the candidate. Number 1 is create a compelling job advertisement. Make sure that the interaction that happens at the point of advertisement or what happens at the point where they interact with your website is exciting and amazing. Secondly, ensure that use your social media platforms to create awareness and create top-of-mind awareness, like I said earlier, with potential candidates. Then consideration. Ensure that as much as possible, you provide as much information as possible and as much content as possible, and ensure that you reach out to potential candidates and personalize, like I said, conversations with them. Then ensure that as well as possible, at the stage of application, you make it easy for them to apply for the job when they come to apply. Under selection, also ensure that candidates are informed of what to expect. Can I tell you something? There are some times when someone is coming to my organization for an interview, especially where they are very senior, I will tell you about my CEO so that you know the person you're going to be meeting. I'll say to them things like, so you're going to be talking to Mr. XYZ. Mr. XYZ is this, is that, is that. He's very analytical. He's very this, he's very that. He likes to hear about numbers. He likes to hear about this. I'm not giving you answers, but I'm just prepping you so that when you go to sit, because people are different and they look at different things. So you need to prepare the candidate for success. So how do you make the selection process seamless and set the candidate up for success as well? That's part of your job as HR. It makes the experience amazing. And then the next stage is the offer and acceptance stage, where the individual negotiates, or you negotiate the offer with the individual, and making that seamless as well. And then the onboarding process, which is at the heart of everything we have spoken about here. You may get everything right, and then at the onboarding process, sometimes we then lose it and we're unable to win the people over and retain them. Module 4 speaks about leveraging technology and data. So I will not overemphasize this, but I'm going to say that data is life. Someone once said, "In God we trust, all others bring data." In God we trust, all others bring data. Data cannot lie. Okay? So in everything that you do, as much as is humanly possible, ensure that what you do is driven and guided by data. Okay? So leverage data. If you leverage data, it helps you improve, because you can always see where things are going wrong, see where things are going right, and see where you need to improve or where you have gaps. So technology, I'll speak about 4 key things, and I'll start from down up. One of the most important things about technology is the integration of your technology. Now, if you have different systems, you must ensure that the different systems are talking to each other. This is one of the biggest challenges I have seen with technology that we use in HR. So we have systems. You go online to apply for an interview, for a job. As you go online to apply, it would ask you for all sorts of information. It gets to the stage for the interview, and the system is requiring you to fill data again, but the system is not calling up the information you already filled at the point of application. You have to start filling another set of forms, which is requiring the same set of information or data that you have already imputed at the point of application. So our systems must be integrated. Integrated means they must be talking to each other. It makes it very seamless for you, and it creates a good experience. Imagine that they call you for an interview, and as soon as you log into the site for the interview, it brings up your name. It automatically brings up your data that you had already filled up, that you don't have to fill up anymore. It's amazing. It makes it seamless. Then personalization is another beautiful thing. So imagine that somebody sits before you and he is at the point where your onboarding is happening. Everything you give to the individual is personalized with their names, with their, I went somewhere once and I was giving a couple of things, and already, because they had my wife's name and the names of my family name, they put my name and my wife's name already. Thank you for what you're doing for us, because we were trying to say that, the man works for the organization, but you know what? They were saying thank you to the woman because they had the information. Her name was there in full. I didn't need to provide it. Personalization is an experience that candidates see, and it helps make the process seamless. Then enhanced communication. We've spoken about this before. How do we make the communication a lot more better? Can we think about using chatbots or virtual assistants? So when somebody wants to find out more information on the career site, do they have to send an email and then wait for you for a couple of days before you can respond? Questions that need to be answered. How is technology enabling things for you? How are you using technology to get better with your processes? Then how is technology giving you real-time updates about what is happening with your candidates? How does technology tell them that, okay, let me give you an example with interview scheduling. How many of you know that candidates can schedule their interviews with certain tools that all they just need to do is go online, they can see availability, and they can schedule their interviews without having to talk to you directly sometimes? I was working with my coach a couple of weeks ago, and the coach just sent me a link. And as I went to the link, I could see immediately her availability, and I could schedule the dates where I can have my conversation with her. So there are tools that can help with scheduling that you don't have to struggle. The candidate can go online, schedule, and say, I'm available on this date, because you have already populated availability on that calendar from the back end. And they can select their dates, and then you spool from the other end, and it makes the experience very seamless. Technology is an enabler, and you must understand that in the process as you drive, okay? And then tools and platforms for recruitment. I'm sure most of us are familiar with some of these, and I can leave you to just take your time to familiarize yourself with these. Video interviewing tools are now commonplace. We have the applicant tracking system that helps us to sieve and all the other processes of the interview. We have assessment and testing platforms that you can use to run your assessment centers when you engage. And then analytics. Like I said, if you have data and you can't make inferences from the data is useless. So how do we ensure that the data that we have, we're able to make inferences from them? So you have data that shows demography, that shows gender, that shows location, that shows age, that shows industry, that shows function, for instance. How do you play around those data? So, for instance, how do you know the industry where you're hiring the best finance analysts from, for instance? How do you know the industries where you're hiring the best salespeople from? So that you know that, if I want a good salesperson, go to FMCG. If I want the best data, if I want the best finance person, go to telecoms. If I want this, go to this industry. Is by the data you have. So when they come and they are trying to apply for the job, when they fill the form and you end up hiring, always go back to your data and then play around your data. It helps you know where your best talents are coming from or where you're sourcing them from. Data helps you also play around diversity and inclusion. It helps you also gain insights into the behaviors of candidates who come for interviews. Okay, and so on. Okay, so guys, I heard the recording of this is on YouTube, so you can have it. So we can go on and on and on and on and on, but I'll leave this for you to go through so you can read them and then know how to play with the data or explore the data that you have available to you. Okay, and then the final part is in terms of measuring and improving the candidate experience. So I must say that continuous improvement is at the heart of a great candidate experience. How do we ensure that in everything that we do, we are rethinking and reinventing ourselves? We are focused at getting better. We are focused at moving from where we are to where we ought to be. Someone once said that what got you here will not take you there. So how do we keep getting better so that we can get to the point where we can say we candidates are having an amazing time engaging and interacting with us? So what KPIs would you use to track a great candidate experience? Can anybody help us? What KPIs can we use to track a great candidate experience? You can go to the chat room and drop your thoughts. What KPIs can we use? We have 1 minute very quickly. What KPIs do you think that we can use? Anybody? Anybody? What KPIs can you use to track a great candidate experience? Time to feel. Thank you, Kelvin. Retention rate. Thank you, Rotimi. Thank you very much. Amazing. Someone said taking a survey. Amazing. Musweet, thank you very much for that. Retention of staff within the first month, Tijani, that's amazing. number invited and number attended. Thank you, Ijoma. That's amazing as well. Thank you very much. Keep them coming. Keep them coming. Any other? All right. Thank you for those responses. So these and many more are things that we can do to really keep the experience, number of referrals after the interview. Yes. So let's look at this. What gets measured gets done, and what gets measured gets managed. Okay. Cost per hire, the recruitment funnel. Thank you, guys. So it's important really that we measure from time to time. Okay. So these are things we can look at. The candidate satisfaction score. When we use survey, someone spoke about, we spoke about survey earlier. Candidate satisfaction score. How do we ensure that the satisfaction level of the candidate is at the minimum 80%? Okay. The satisfaction level that from the moment I started applying for this job to the point where I did the interviews and did the got to the offer stage, it was an amazing process for me. Then how long did it take to hire? I mean, because of you want to get them to see 10 people, it then takes longer than necessary because managers are not available. Your candidates are taking longer than necessary to get to the point where they can really, really, really close interviews. Then the quality of hire, then the cost per hire, the application completion rate. How many of the people who really applied went through the process? How many of them dropped off by the way? And then the offer acceptance rate. How many of these candidates accepted the offer? Okay, or got to the offer acceptance level? These are very important questions that would help you understand whether the experience is good. Okay? And then continuous improvement speaks about regular reviews. Review from time to time, maybe quarterly, maybe twice a year. Review your process end to end every time. And you cannot review without benchmarking against best practice or even getting feedback from the people who have come through your process. And then process optimization. As you get that, do a process improvement. There is something called as is process and to be process. What is the current situation? Where do we want to be? So review the as is and then look at the to be and enable them with technology as much as possible and train people as you change your process. And then focus on best practices as much as possible. Benchmark yourself. What are the best organizations in your industries? What are they doing differently? And how can you leverage or learn from what they are doing differently to get better within your organization? Okay. So that's the point, really. What we are saying here is that once the experience with the candidate is amazing and great, it has a significant impact on the bottom line, and it helps you retain talents now and in the future. And we need to start with thinking and reinventing what we do as HR professionals so that we can ensure that, or we can assure the organization that our talent development and talent retention policies and talent attraction policies are best in class. Okay? Any question at this point? You can unmute to ask your questions, or you can go to the chat room and drop your questions. All right. Yes, Mosweet, please, I see your hand. Please go. Mosweet, I can see your hand. Do you want to unmute and go?
All right, thank you. I appreciate it. Oh, thank you so much for this insightful section. And I must say, I don't think there's a better way to have done this than you have just done. I have
Thank you.
a kind of question and not a question. So based on my previous experience, I have had some organization that has at least ticked the box with some of those things that we have talked about, from the image awareness and up to the selection and all of that. But some of the things I find that HR and organizations had not been able to do is, after being able to ensure that this candidate experience is top notch with the feedback and continuous improvement, it's sometimes all of these efforts that has been put together is sometimes busted at the end. And I'm speaking from experience. I've had people reach out to me about an organization where I had worked, and they had gone past the first, second, and almost at the compensation discussion stage. So the offer is almost coming in. And they have reached out to ask, like, what do you think? I'm intending to go to this organization. I saw in your profile that you had worked there before, and I was sincere with the person I spoke with. And the person declined the offer because I shared this person is a professional like me and also a sister. And I say to the person, like, what her experience may not be your experience, but the truth is, at the point where you say you are leaving, when the organization becomes your enemy, it leaves a bad taste. And I say to people and to organizations that have had privilege to give feedback to that, you should put all of this process in place, and then at the point where employee are done their bit and they are moving on, and then they become your enemy, people still reach out to them, no matter the branding you put on social media, no matter the paparazzi you put out there, how inclusive, how good you are. When somebody talks to someone, just like the case study you have shared, someone has come in, this time is no longer a candidate. Yeah, she has worked, and the organization left a bad taste in her mouth. If she has to be sincere with anyone that will come forward, it won't be a nice experience. And then the procedure has to start all over again. The HR team had to start recruiting, start from the beginning again, because this candidate was almost going to go in. At a point, I felt like, maybe I shouldn't have been sincere. But I asked the person, why would you decline the offer? I said, I'm looking for something. At this point, I am very comfortable in the current job I have. I'm just looking for something different, and it doesn't look like I will get it here. It's not about the money. It's more of the culture, because I'm in a place where it's not so good, and I can't go into another place with a cultural issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mosweet. So, I mean, you are spot on. There's no better way to say this than what we have been trying to say. And the case study, like you said, has clearly answered this. Once we don't get it right, the people who leave our organizations, they become ambassadors for us. So they become either our ambassadors, or they become the people who will carry the bad news. Okay. So we must be very careful about the experience of the people, both those in and those out. Because the people in, if the experiences they have aren't good, then it means, because the candidate experience is both what happens before interview, pre-interview, and what happens post-interview. So when I come into the organization and my experience is bad, understand that, like we said earlier, bad news will fly faster than good news. So over 20, 30, 40, 50 people will hear. Let me put it this way. Remember that if I go and I have a good experience, I may not even tell anybody. Maybe tell one or two people. But the day the person has a bad experience, he will tell more people, because he feels pain. He feels pained. He or she feels pained. Let me add that in this day of social media is even worse, because some of them will even go to social media and post it and speak about how pained they are about the experience that they have had with the organization. And the problem with social media, it goes like wildfire. So we must be very careful, in as much as people, as they come in and as they go, as we must be careful both at the point of entry and at the point of exit. I would rather create an alumni. In fact, that's one thing organizations are doing now. As you are leaving, they create an alumni for those who are leaving the organizations so that they can become ambassadors for them as they leave, okay? So this lies with us as HR people. We must understand that it lies with us to make every process seamless and exciting for the individual, okay? Someone says, how do we make aesthetic good with little budget? Yes, work with what you have. It's almost like saying, how do I make soup at home with little budget? The same person who has got somebody can go to the market with 100,000 naira to make a pot of soup, and somebody can still go to the market with 20,000 naira and still make a pot of soup. The difference will just be, and they will still serve both, and they will be both tasty. The difference is that one may have all the snails, have goat meat, have fish, have everything in it. The other may not have too much, but it's tasty enough for everybody to have a great meal. So what am I trying to say? Sometimes it's not about the size of the house. It may also be just as little as how clean and how beautiful the place is, how conducive it is for people, how peaceful it is. It may be about the engagement activities that you have. It may be the fact that somebody came and said to me, Stanley, this company is warm. They are warm. Everybody is like a family. It's about those basic things that you can put together. Somebody comes and then I give the person a pack with all sorts of souvenirs in it. You may not be able to do that. You may be able to create a branded shirt for the individual. It could be anything basic, but try and replicate some of these elements. Is it personalized? Is it seamless? Is it technology enabled? How do we ensure that at each stage of the process, you do what is possible within your budget and keep improving from where you are at that point in time? Imagine that you spend 10,000 on a project this time. Next year, you take another 10,000 to improve it. And the next year, you put another 20,000 to improve it. It doesn't matter. You will get there over time and still get to where the person who spent 100,000 in one day got to with his or her own approach, okay? Somebody also asked, in a situation where you are working as a consultant for a company, how do you infuse all of these strategies, knowing fully well it may differ from your client? So it's about leadership buy-in. If you know John Cotter's model for change management, try and apply that. Understand how to drive change within an organization. Find key stakeholders that will buy into your vision, walk through them, and use them to drive the kind of value that you want to see within the organization. That's my advice for you. Moswi said maybe no shaking around about, but look us be. All right, amazing. That's about the soup, okay?
Absolutely. It's about to be creative about it. So irrespective of what you have as a budget or irrespective of what you are actually working with. And at times, it may not always be very, very capital intensive as we have all identified. It's about putting the right thing in the right dimension to solve the right problem for the organization. So it's not about how much, even in the little, you can actually achieve more if you know how best to use it. And what stops you from asking from your peers, from few people, from seniors, from people in the community to ask for few help without even charges? So it's for us to really look out for more ways is to be creative about it. Thank you so much. So the Shaki roundabout may not be present. Even if it is the mushroom that you have, it may even turn out to have a very, very more delicious soup without the Shaki and roundabout. Thank you so much. Do we still have any other question? Any other? Yeah, I think all questions have been taken by the facilitator. It has been a super explosive session. Thank you so much, Mr. Stanley Eluwa. I'm sure that the leadership and the learning and capacity development team will call again. This is maybe if we'll be taking it more, maybe we'll be having a 2 to 3 days powerful session, but you have just touched this in style. Thank you so much. So Mr. Stanley had shared his profile. You can engage with him. He's everywhere on social media. You can just type Stanley Eluwa. You see him on all social media.
Follow me on
And
IG. Find me on IG.
Say it again.
They can follow me on IG. They'll find me on IG. Stanley.
Yes, you can. Yeah, you can follow him on Instagram. He's also on LinkedIn, Sam Eluwa, and it would be of help. All right. Do you have any other question in the room? All right. Someone is sending you a friend request already. It's okay. He will add you. He would accept. He will accept the link. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. It has been an explosive session, and we thank you so much for the insights, for the reminder, for the nuggets, for the explanation, for the deep explanation. We say a big thank you for all. This is the fourth session of the pre-conference masterclass. Another session is coming on next week again. We all know it's no more news that our 7th annual conference is coming up between 29th of August to 31st August 2024. It's a 3 days powerful packed session. The first 2 days are virtual. Of course, we are a global association. We have our members all over the world. We have them in different places, and everyone needs to be part of the program. So it is an hybrid one. The first 2 days are virtual, so you can log in from anywhere you are around the world. And the gala night rounds it up on Saturday, my apologies. On Saturday, so all right. So it will be a after party after all the learning session that we'll have each round up on Saturday, 31st August 2024. And we all know the venue, Radisson Blue Hotel. The theme had been communicated. Please tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. Everyone needs to be here. And as managers, you should not keep these sessions to yourself. Share with others, share with your team members, share with your managers, share with your leadership team. Everyone needs to be equipped. It will make your lives easier. All right. If you need to register for the conference, visit www.ahrp.org for your conference registration. We can't wait to have you. It's 12 days to go today. All right. So much excitement all over, and no one should be left behind. We should just be there. I have more sweets and up. If you have any comments, please, you have the floor. You can.
I think it's an error. My hand has been open.
You can unmute yourself, more sweets. Is this hand a new one?
It's an old hand. I apologize. It's an old hand. I apologize, please.
Say it again. It's an old hand.
Okay, that's fine. I apologize. Though all my hand is new every day, but I apologize.
Okay. Oh, your hand is new every day. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Appreciate everyone coming here. I'm sure that we have learned a lot on this topic, and see you again next week, same time, 6 p.m. West African time. And if you are yet to register for the conference, please do so. Register for yourself, register for your team members, register for your managers, register for everyone, your leadership team. And
certificates.
You will thank me later. See you. Yeah, there will be certificates that can be